What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Show and Go podcast, where we show up without any preparation and give you all of our MLB The Show takes. I'm Blake Anderson here with Ryan Jones, Anthony Steller-Harter, and today we're going to be ranting about MLB The Show just a little bit and giving our wish list for MLB The Show 21. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Show and Go Pod. That's at Show, the letter N, Go Pod. And also leave a rating if you're on Apple Podcasts. 5-star ratings are always appreciated. But if you hate us, we'll take some feedback.
Personally, we're at 4 stars right now. We haven't earned that 5th one for me just yet.
I agree. I think we need to improve. The sound quality is going to sound great today because we're using Anchor's feature where they allow you to record group calls. So hopefully Anthony and Ryan sound a lot better. And we can keep improving the podcast quality for you guys. So
this is not sponsored by Anchor, by the way.
It could be, though. Maybe you can sponsor your own podcast by Anchor. We can get like 20 cents a podcast when we hit it big, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And then if we do enough 20-cent podcasts, we can eventually all afford real microphones. So you guys keep listening. We'll get microphones eventually.
If you guys pay us, we will give you better quality. At the very least.
Exactly. Donations are always appreciated. Oh, speaking of that, we have our second sponsor of the podcast. Ryan, do you want to get into our second ad read?
All right. This episode is sponsored by another product of our own, Show and Go laxatives. So that when you show up to the bathroom, you will go. We guarantee it 100% money back. Just better than prune juice, as many people have told us.
And for the holiday season, it's a great gift for pretty much literally anybody on the planet. So last minute Christmas shopping, we've all been there. Just get some Show and Go laxatives and make your family's day, you know.
You know, for someone who's lactose intolerant, this works better than if I even just ate a pound of cheese. So, great product.
There you have it. There we go. All right. Let's get right into the rant. Let's get right into the wish list because I think that as far as the offseason for MLB The Show goes, there's not a lot of content after like November or December. And we really want to sort of tamper our expectations a little bit because of coronavirus and everything that's been going on, but we can still dream. We can still get our hopes up for this new game. So why don't we do that? I'll go first. I think this might be on all 3 of your guys' lists. It might be the most important in my opinion. The thing that I would like improved the most for MLB The Show 21 is definitely the timing window with hitting. So I think universally everybody that plays the game can probably agree that it would be better for the game if good input was rewarded more and early and late was got a little bit worse. Because I think today we see a lot of early home runs. We see a lot of late bloop hits. Not a lot of good reward. I mean, good rewards. You get good hard hit balls, but in MLB The Show, nobody really cares about hard hit balls. You know, you don't like come out of an at bat like, wow, I crushed that. So I'm feeling pretty good. It's like, no, like that should have gone out. That's like everybody's feeling when they square up a ball is that should have been a homer, which, you know, probably not super rational. Can't always hit a homer. It's not great expectations to have, but you feel like you earned it when you square up a ball. And I think the timing window just needs a little bit of balance compared to other issues in the game. I think most of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about is more balancing related rather than like a huge overhaul of a new system. I think if you just slightly tweak the timing window a little bit, you have a much better game. I think that would make up a lot of people really happy. What do you guys think?
I agree with you. The one thing that I've noticed this year that's a bigger problem in my mind is the just to the right of good. Like you're still good timing, but you're slightly late on it. And those seem to be the ones that are least rewarded for how close they are to being good hits. And I think that needs to be fixed.
I think it's needs to be fixed too. That if you're early on an outside low and away off speed pitch, early timing, that gets rewarded more than a good timed pitch.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of those. I think later side of good is one of the worst things you could possibly have as far as a result, besides, of course, very early, very late, too early. Because I think in real baseball, if you have especially with outside fastballs, if you have an outside fastball and you square it up and it's still good timing, but you're slightly behind it, a lot of times that's a line drive to right. Whether it's caught or not is, depends on where they're playing and what player you're using at the plate. But in real baseball, that's usually squared up pretty well. And in MLB The Show, it's usually a weak pop out. Or, I've noticed a lot of times if I've had hits where the ball is completely inside the PCI, but I popped it straight up to the catcher, which, that doesn't really make sense, especially if you think about how you can make contact on a ball that's not in the PCI. And yet I have a ball completely inside the PCI, and I popped it up to the catcher. That does not make any sense at all logically. And so little fixes like that would completely change the game, in my opinion.
I agree 100%.
Good swing and misses is another thing that I've noticed that just shouldn't be a thing.
Yep. I struck out on a good timed swing yesterday. I was looking at the feedback from they pull up the little chart after the game, and you can see every type of swing you had. I struck out on a good time swing. Granted, I think that ball probably would have hit me, but so it may be my fault. It might be my fault. Who's to say, right? I definitely think the timing window, it just needs to be rebalanced. I don't think they need to change the hitting engine or anything like that. I just think that if you could if you could readjust the timing window, I think the game would be so much more fun for a lot of people, because I don't enjoy getting rewarded on an early home run. I don't enjoy a late bloop hit either, honestly. It would be much more fun if those good timing hits I got ended up being either base hits or hits to the gap, even if it's not a home run. I've also noticed that, especially with perfect, and when you do get rewarded, it's usually a homer, which is great. But I'm wondering if, to make the game a little bit more realistic, you can up the batting average on good timing hits that you are slightly off of to be singles. I feel like there's not a lot of singles in MLB The Show that are squared up. They're always either blooped or you slightly missed it, which makes sense. That's not unrealistic. I guess it would just be also nice to hey, I squared that ball up, line drive into left center for a single. I think if we saw that a little bit more, it might make games closer for a lot of people. But what do you guys think as far as hit variety?
Well, I think what you're talking about is a lot more realistic, but it's a lot less fun for the people. So I think they're trying to find the balance where they want a lot of extra base hits. But, guys like Rod Carew, Ichiro last year, they all suffer because they don't have that power. Tony Gwynn this year, I have seen barely anybody use him, and he was in tons of lineups last year. That's just because I think they upped the power threshold because people were complaining about guys like Tony Gwynn hitting bombs like no business. It is just
right. And I think what I've noticed, at least with Tony Gwynn and cards like Ichiro in the past, is that instead of them being easier to square up balls with, because that should be the point of increased contact and vision, is it's easier to hit the ball. Instead of that being the result, it just seems like they get bloop hits even more. What would make that less annoying is if, it really is easier to hit the ball with them. And then also, when you do get barrel and good timing, it's just a single. Not singles every time, obviously, but I've just, squared up singles with contact hitters would be a little bit refreshing. And again, I don't know if that makes them crack my lineup. I don't think it does, but at least it makes some for some variety, right?
Right.
But why don't we move on to Ryan's first wish list item?
First rant, more like it.
Okay, go for it.
Hanging pitches. The curveballs in this game are unusable. I think the 12-6 curve is the worst pitch in the entire game. It makes a lot of cards unusable. It makes Nolan Ryan way worse. Burt Blyleven is terrible in this game. I mean, if you use him really well and you're really skilled, you would do well with him, but that's with any pitcher. A lot of guys. Kershaw's way worse this year because of his curve. When his curve is one of his most dominant pitches in real life, they just don't break enough late in the zone. You play on the top levels, you play in Hall of Fame, you play in 800, nobody's swinging at curveballs unless they're hanging, which they do a lot. It's almost impossible to hit that bottom line of the zone with a curveball. It either is suctioned up or suctioned down, and it's not usable, and they need to fix curveballs.
All right, so building back off of what Ryan was saying, the issue with curveballs is that they're just also not consistent. Sometimes they'll break, but that's like 1 out of every 5 that you'll throw. So you can't even really trust it because they'll just hang when you least want them to, it feels like.
Yeah, and I think the solution to that, because I completely agree, Ryan, the curveballs are useless. If a pitcher doesn't have a slider and their only breaking ball is a curveball, they're not touching my rotation. It's not happening. I think even changeups kind of suffer from the same problem sometimes. Not quite as bad, but still sometimes it's hard to hit that bottom part of the zone. They're either in the dirt or hanging. And I think you could help if you change the pitching input a little bit, that would definitely help. Like if you could spot your pitches more, especially with guys who have good control. It's not like every card in the game is like a Chapman or a Nolan Ryan, where of course it's going to be hard to dot the zone because they throw a million miles an hour and don't have that great of control. But with the guys with good control should be able to dot those pitches, right? Like I said, one solution for the curveballs is changing the way they break. I think the break needs to be sharper. I think in real baseball, most curveballs are thrown like hard and they break like straight down almost or straight to the left. Instead of like what in MLB The Show, it's like a little league curveball or like a travel ball curveball where they don't know how to throw it yet, and it's really slow. And it's like, of course you're just gonna like drop barrel on it and take it out to left. Like it's easy, dude. Anybody can do that. Like I think hitting a hanging breaking ball is incredibly easy in this game. Like hitting a fastball is always going to be hard in this game unless you're like a top player. And so if somebody hits a fastball out, it's kind of like, well, good job. But when you hang a pitch that you had good pitching input on, and then plus they were early on it, it's like, come on, game. Like, what are you doing? So I completely agree. That was also on my list. So hopefully we see some revamping to off speed next year. Maybe a change in break or a change in pitching input.
Right. Honestly, yeah, I hope so. And speaking of that, my rant is actually just about pitching. My biggest issue, honestly, with this game is that they're better hitters than pitchers, if that makes sense. Like, the amount of good hitters in the game outweighs the amount of good pitchers, I feel like, especially that are usable in endgame. Yet, it feels like the hitting engine, even though it's not consistent, it's not perfect, is not nearly as bad as pitching to me. Because you can perfect input a pitch, and it'll be a foot off of where you want it to be. And basically what I want is just more consistency with good input. And especially the guys with worse control, it's like the guys with worse control, you finally get a good input and they'll still not be where you want it. You know what I mean? So it's already difficult to get that good input. Yeah, the pitch just doesn't go where it needs to be. So, yeah. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. I do feel like MLB The Show, although I'll agree hitting is hard. Hitting can be hard. You get into slumps. You really do have to learn how to hit a fastball in Hall of Fame if you want to make at least World Series. But at the same time, especially All-Star or below, below 700 in ranked, it's a slugfest. Most games I play on All-Star are a slugfest. I rarely have pitching duels on All-Star. And so I'm wondering if, a lot of people say that they want universal pitch speeds or they want to retune where the difficulty changes in ranked. And I'm open to that too, but I'm just wondering if you balance out the game a little bit better, that problem might take care of itself. Like if you can give pitchers a little bit more accuracy on the breaking balls. Like Ryan said, you can touch the bottom part of the zone. If you make it so, this is actually my next rant point, there's less foul balls. If there was less foul balls, pitching would be a lot easier, right? Because instead of throwing 5 0-2 pitches, you throw 2 or 1, and they swing and miss, like in baseball. Again, if it's Tony Gwynn or Ichiro, okay, that's fine. That makes way more sense, right? That's justified. But I've played so many games where it is hard to strike out somebody because they've hit so many foul balls, especially on breaking pitches. Like a lot of guys are late on a sinker inside, foul ball. Very early on a slider off the plate, foul ball. That should be a swing and miss. In my opinion, if the PCI is not touching the baseball, swing and miss. I would love to see the game play like that. I think, yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it because it's a video game and there's a million things that you can break by changing once. Like coding is hard as shit. But from our perspective, I'm just going to say that I think that the PCI should be the contact window. I don't think you should be able to make contact with a pitch that you weren't touching. Again, if it's a contact hitter, that's fine. But I've had a lot of games where I do that, where I'm in so many at-bats that I shouldn't be in because I'm fouling off pitch after pitch. I'm just fouling off great 0-2 pitches that I didn't even touch. And then I go yard because he finally makes a mistake, right? And again, that does happen in baseball sometimes, but not every at-bat. I think if you balance that and you make pitching not easier, but more rewarding, more user input based, then you have hitting becomes harder because you have less foul balls. Breaking balls are hard to hit again, and the game might balance itself out a little bit. You might not have those slugfest games on All-Star where it's 11-10 and every hit was a homer, And again, that's really fun sometimes, but I would love to be able to throw, or I would love to be able to have a pitching duel on All-Star. Especially for, I think, the average player. I think we have our little Twitter and content creator bubble where everybody we follow is pretty decent at the game. So it's like, yeah, let's make universal pitch speeds on Hall of Fame. But that would not work for a majority of the player base. I think a lot of them would probably quit the game if they couldn't hit a Hall of Fame fastball, right? Like, it's very hard for people to continue to play a game that they feel like they have no hope of being good at. And for the sake of MLB The Show, we don't want people to quit the game because that's less money. That's just bad for the game. So I don't know. What do you guys think on the foul ball topic or just the pitching topic?
I agree completely with Blake with foul balls. I myself have been bailed out by getting a very late or very early foul ball on the 2-strike count, and the next pitch I hit out. And it just kind of feels kind of cheap even on my end. So I definitely think foul balls need to be fixed so they're not like 5 pitches in a row are fouled off in a 2-strike count.
This just made me think of check swinging, and check swinging is broken. I myself am a check swing bandit, and there have been times in games where an entire inning I check swing at every single pitch that I don't swing at, and I don't get called because if you find that line where you can tap the button and anticipate, then you'll not get called every single time. And I think pitchers are picking their pitches where they get like a fatigue on a certain pitch if they pitch it too many times, like their 5th pitch, they throw it 3 times in a row. It's less accurate. It should be like that with check swings, where if you check swing 3 times in a row, you're more likely to get called.
Yeah, I think check swings run rampant, especially for guys who are a little bit later on the fastball. They feel like they have to get their bat started early. And that's happened to me. That's happened to people I've played. That I'm like Ryan said, that's happened to him. I just think, yeah, if they call it more, it wouldn't be as viable of an option, so people wouldn't do it, right? I feel like it happens every game. Somebody does a wild check swing, and it's just, it pans over to the umpire every time, and I'm like, don't even fucking show it if he's going to go safe, because I don't want to fucking see it. I don't. And every time, safe. And then the one time the 12-year-old kid that I'm playing barely taps the button, and his batter just flinches a little bit, and I'm like, okay, whatever, he didn't swing. Like, I don't care about it. umpire rings him up. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? Like, what is going on? Like, I swear it's just backwards. Like, they could switch it and it would work. Like, it would be that. Like, I'm so blown away at check swings. It's incredible how bad it is. But, like, again, I'm not blaming the devs or anything. I just think that that's frustrating. It's as simple as that. It's frustrating. And again, it's not satisfying on the other end. I'm not like, oh, I beat him there because I stopped my button, 1 millisecond faster than if he was going to swing. Like, that's stupid. No. So check swings need to be revamped for sure. And I think a lot of these things that we're talking about would just balance out the game. I think it helps this thing we're specifically talking about, and it helps other aspects of the game become more balanced. And in turn, it becomes more fun and more realistic, And I think that's the balance they're going for. We've seen them talk about trying to balance real baseball with, having fun and it being a video game. Like, they've talked about it. So I think a lot of these changes would help both of those goals. I'm going to go into my next wish list item: more frequent and better managed competitive tournaments. I think that the tournaments this year were a decent start. I think it was cool that we had tournaments throughout the year. I just don't think ESL managed them very well, because I understand SDS doesn't have a say in that, right? That's really not their field, but it should be. I want that in their hands. I want it in I don't want ESL. They've lost my vote, right? Because I think it was Kyle that didn't get his paycheck until months later. Like, it was a joke, and all the settings were wrong. The first one was on Legend when it wasn't advertised as Legend, and just not the competitive settings that you need for MLB The Show. Like, I think most people could agree on a list of settings that would be competitive, and they didn't even get close to that list. So I think if you take the tournaments out of ESL's hands, SDS gets a little bit more input, even if it's still from a third company. Give them a little bit of input, because they know the game. They made it. Like, ESL, who do they have that makes that tournament that came to the conclusion that Legend was the best? They probably just looked at it and was like, well, this is the hardest one, and it's a competitive tournament. Like, no, most people can't even hit Legend. Like, it's so hard. I love being competitive in MLB The Show, and I love trying to hit a fastball that's really hard to hit, because that's baseball. But not everybody wants to do that, man. And I really hope that these tournaments, again, are more frequent. So not one every season, of the year. So that was 4 tournaments. I'd love to see more tournaments, once a month, maybe. That would be great. And if they were managed better with better settings, players actually getting paid what they deserved after they win the tournament, things that should be done that are very simple are not being done. And so if that got revamped, I think you could have the game explode with interactions because of the competitive scene.
Yeah, I mean, I have personal experience from that qualifying tournament that was played on Legend. I actually thought I was going to qualify because I stayed up till 2:30 to wait for my first. No, I think my first game was at 12:30, past midnight, and I'm on the West Coast, 3:30 East Coast. There's no way people are staying up this late, because we didn't get time updates or anything. They didn't say, oh, it's going to be here, it's going to be here. No, I was just sitting in the game waiting for it to start. On my first 2 games, the other person didn't show up. And then I got completely ran by a World Series player at Ship It. So I thought, yeah, I don't even belong here. This is cool with me. I'll tap out now, save my dignity. But it was very poorly ran.
Yeah, I think if they revamp the tournaments, there's a good opportunity for a competitive MLB The Show scene that just doesn't exist. I mean, look at 2K. They have a professional league. They have players that are paid a salary to play their game. They had a draft. Do you know how cool that is? That is so cool to think about. Even in professional games like other console esports like Call of Duty and I don't know, there's not that many console esports, but they don't have a draft. Shit just happens. They just sign people. But like they had a draft. That is awesome. That is so cool to me. And they got paid to play this game. That's so cool. And I think literally everybody would want to see that. Even the players who don't qualify to like be that good, they're not World Series players, but they would watch. Like I promise you, people would watch that. And I'm not saying that MLB The Show should be expected to go as far as 2K has, especially because the competitive scene for MLB The Show is like non-existent, really, except for those qualifiers this year. So I'm not saying that needs to happen this year. I'm just saying that other sports games are on top of it. Even Madden has professional players that play for money. Like, we don't have that. They are so far behind. And I don't know if that's really SDS's fault. I just think maybe ESL wasn't the service to do that. And I think maybe Sony's not really inclined to put that much money into a competitive league. Maybe they don't see the game like that, but I do. And I think that would be a really cool opportunity to see in the future.
Right. I agree. I think it would be a smart way to grow the game even more and get even more viewers, especially this upcoming year with Xbox players being introduced to the game.
Right. And we'll get into some of the logistics that we've heard about the game after the rant.
And
for sure.
Keep your eyes and ears here, because we may be running a tournament in the near future. We're working behind the scenes on that. Keep you updated.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely looking into doing giveaways, tournaments, basically anything that would get you guys to interact with us. That would be awesome. And keep an eye out for that. We all want to commentate these tournaments. So we want to get it to look as professional as possible. And I think that would be really fun, especially in the off season, because guess what? There ain't shit to do in the MLB The Show off season. There is nothing to grind. There is nothing to watch. And you know what? That's okay, because it's the off season. But at the same time, I want to keep playing, and there's a bunch of people that want to keep playing. And so we're going to try and give you guys that opportunity.
Okay, so one thing I want for them is to go even further with their awards cards, because I feel like they kind of held themselves back with just MVP, Cy Young, and Silver Slugger, and they kind of introduced like Rookie of the Year, but they didn't really do much with it. I think there's like only 2 or 3 cards, so I think that would be a fun thing to do. I think they could just really go all in as many awards cards as like reasonably possible to just really do Rookie of the Year and just stuff like that, like Platinum Glove for Chapman and Arenado, stuff like that. So that's one thing I want, just to go more in with the cards that they can from what they have available.
Right. I totally agree. I think I was super excited for the awards cards this year. I think that's an awesome addition. Since this was the first year that was really a thing, I think next year they will add to it for sure. Also, I think hopefully they add the Platinum Glove. I think that would be awesome, where they just have maxed out fielding. I mean, we already have a Platinum Glove MLB The Show swipes, so we're already ahead of them on the game. Like, we've got Matt Chapman Roman swipes. Like, come on, dude. They are a little bit behind on that, but hey, and you could even change the card art, you make it like silver looking, well, or the Silver Slugger card could be silver too. I don't know what you would do for Platinum. Oh, make it the diamond color. Yes. Like, it's like, that would be sick. But their card art's always awesome. That's one thing that their design team and their content team have always been great. That's A+ for that. I
love the finest cards, but I think they should have done the current year awards card. So give Freeman an MVP card, give Abreu an MVP card. I know he had a 97. Who cares? I don't even care if it's a slight upgrade. Just give him the card. It's fun.
I completely agree. I think there's usually guys will complain, why add another card? We already have a 97 whatever. And it's like, dude, who cares? Like, I just want to see new cards. I like the variety. I think more variety in cards is going to make the game better. I think, look at Madden. They have a million different editions of like different cards and different power-ups you can do. You can boost your cards. Like, I was in movies Twitch stream, and somebody was talking about how Madden does like the 1-day boosts for Halloween, and how they kind of did that with Tatis this year. But it would be cool to see that, on certain events, players get a boost. Like, I think they're barely scratching the surface with that stuff, and other games are already ahead of the curve. So
Yeah, definitely.
I think they could definitely go full into that sort of idea. That would be awesome. My next item on the wish list is new quirks, and this is a small one. I just think that it would be really cool to see new quirks, especially new quirks that affect online play. If we get quirks that affect online play, I think it adds variety to cards that are the same overall. So there's 1,099,000 in the game right now. And if they have different quirks that affect online play, it might give you a reason to vary your lineup a little bit, you know? One example that I told you guys about while we were playing the other day was sort of a Verlander quirk where you get Outlier the later he goes into the game. Because in real life, Verlander starts, or at least he used to, he starts the game off throwing like mid-90s and he's got really good control. And as the game goes on, he just keeps throwing harder and harder. So to see a slight velocity increase late in the game would be awesome for a pitcher like that. And I think other guys who would have that would be like Scherzer or maybe even DeGrom, I think Anthony suggested. That would be a really cool quirk. And obviously it's a rare thing. Not many pitchers do that. But that's what would make you use that Verlander compared to another 99 pitcher, you know? So I think adding new online quirks would be a really cool way to diversify some of the cards.
Anthony, look out. I think Ben Verlander actually hacked Blake's teleprompter and is telling him what to say. These aren't his words. He doesn't know words with multiple syllables. That's not Blake.
Actually, I'll come clean to you guys. He did pay me to say that. I am on Ben Verlander's payroll. So
for those who don't get the joke there, Ben Verlander, Justin Verlander's younger brother, complained on Twitter to MLB The Show that Justin Verlander's 99 card didn't throw hard enough. So lo and behold, they changed it the next day.
Which I think is hilarious because props to Ben, because thank you for saying something. I feel like a lot of MLB players don't give MLB The Show the time of day. And that's starting to change a little bit because they had the Players League during quarantine. And we've seen more MLB players play the game. And that's really cool. And so Ben Verlander's kind of adding to that a little bit, at least interacting. But MLB The Show, like, did we have to wait for Ben Verlander to say something? Like, come on, we could have changed that day one when the card released, and you have every content creator like looking up Verlander's velocity and being like, this should be higher, right?
I mean, they did that for 99 Ricky Henderson. They gave him 98 speed on his 99 card, and everyone complained. They changed it within like probably 2 hours.
Babe Ruth. He had worse hitting stats when they first announced him too.
That's right.
Right, and I think it's great that they're listening. I think that's a great thing to do, but why is it kind of selective? Like, just up the velocity, man. Like, it'd make it more fun. And honestly, I think totally lost my train of thought.
Ben Verlander is no longer telling him what to say.
Right, I ran out of script, dude.
Ben Verlander logged out of Blake's house.
Yeah. Ben Verlander's left the chat.
I have a few more things on the wish list if you want to hear.
Oh, yeah, go for it. I got a bunch of stuff.
I have a list of like 3 different things, okay? 1, I want the DH in Diamond Dynasty games next year. I know the MLB said prepare for no designated hitter, but we haven't had a season or a year in which we have a DH throughout the game. So I feel like next year is the perfect year to include that.
David Ortiz is a primary first baseman. Just let that sink in. Edgar Martinez is a primary third baseman. Dude.
Exactly. And to go with that, it makes cards like that more usable. Like that JD Martinez, for Blake's instance, who's a Red Sox fan, that card isn't usable.
Ted Williams.
It's just not. Ted Williams.
Oh my God, Teddy. I want to use Teddy so bad, and you can't.
I have 2 cards that I would use to the end of the year. I would switch between using them as a DH, and that's Juan Soto, just because of his fielding, and Nelson Cruz. Both cards absolutely rake off the bench for me. Their defense just doesn't get it done, in my opinion, when I have guys like Mansell, Trout, and Gray.
Dude, Nelly is an awesome bench bat, but he needs to be a DH. He's not a right fielder.
Exactly.
When was the last time Nelson Cruz played right field for a full season?
Was it? Yeah.
Was he on the Rangers? Come on.
I was gonna say, was it the Rangers when he made the infamous non-play against the Cardinals?
Yeah.
David Freese. Next thing for prestige cards next year. You know how it ups everything by 3? What if you got to choose how much everything goes up? You get a certain amount of points to go up, but you can allocate where you want those to be. That's one thing.
I like that. That was also on my list, was adjusting the prestige stats, because in my opinion, +3 across the board is not worth it to grind for. I think for a lot of cards, that makes almost zero difference. But if you let the player pick which attributes get increased, or you just increase the ones that make it kind of bad. Like if a lefty has bad contact against lefties, but everything else is good, just have his prestige card get a +5 to contact versus lefties, or +7, something that's not major, but that it'll make a difference, right?
Exactly. And for guys like Griffey, who have 124, 125 with lesser contact against lefties, I don't need that +3 to 125 power and 124 contact. I want to allocate that to make them just better against lefties. You know what I mean?
Also, guys who are 1 away from diamond fielding, or they're 1 over, then you just take that point and put it somewhere else. But one last note on Nelly Cruz. So the Life Series stats are based on the past 3 years. Well, next year, it'll be this year and the year before, which means he won't have played a single game in the outfield in any of those 3 years. Also, if you go back the past 4 years, he's played 9 combined games in the outfield. So sounds like a primary right fielder to me.
Exactly. They need the DH in MLB The Show. And I think that, again, if you balance out pitching, if you do the things that we've suggested in this podcast, players will not mind having to pitch to a DH, because pitching is rewarding. You won't have that problem. I know that the pitcher is a free out, and it gives you kind of a break for a game that's definitely on the more hitting side than the pitching side. It's definitely not balanced where it's at. And so I get the pitcher gives you sort of a break. But we need the DH. And you know what? We need the DH in baseball all across the board. The NL is one of the only leagues that still has pitchers hit. If we've gone our entire lives having DHs, and they do it in Little League, they do it in travel ball, they do it in high school, they do it in fucking college. And the NL, you're telling me the NL is the one where they're like, no, we're too good for this. This is the baseball we need. We need to watch pitcher strike out. No, thank you. I don't need it. I don't.
All right, so I have 4 guys that I want to be in next year's game. Okay, I'll go from least enticing to most enticing for me, cool. At least. And I expect, if these guys were to be in the game, I expect them to have high 90s, 96, 97, 98, 99 in that area of overall. So first guy, I would want a Cy Young Tim Lincecum. Second, I would want a Gold Glove Eric Chavez. Third, Sandy Koufax.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
And lastly, I know Ryan's gonna like this one. Joe Mauer.
That Mauer card, great.
I would love
Mauer. Mauer was the best catcher.
Yeah, best catcher in the history of the game. There's no one better.
That's a good point. Best catcher in the history of MLB The Show. Yeah, best catcher in the history of MLB The Show. Not real life. I wish Mauer power, baby.
Just listing some obvious ones off the top of my head that would be fan favorites to go in the game. Jeter, even though we all agree he won't be that good, they'll juice him.
Yeah, he'll have 7. His entire rating, it'll be 70 across the board. Doesn't matter what the rating is. Give him a 70.
No.
I mean, Jeter's great. I mean, great career, but just
99 for durability. Besides that ankle.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. That's great. Yeah, 99 durability.
Randy Johnson. Oh my God. That card would be nasty. Pedro Martinez. I know he's one of the first ones everybody lists. Barry Bonds would never happen. Just a lot of oldies that I think are missing from the game. I want Yogi Berra back. I looked through, there's not a single diamond left-handed catcher in the game. We had Brian McCann last year, but he's gone now. So
Yeah.
That's definitely
That's a good
there's
point.
no lineup balance there, because you look where you want to have that righty lefty and you look at catcher and you're stuck with righties everywhere. You could have a switch hitter, but I mean, Posada, you're really sacrificing a lot to have them in. Yeah,
Or Grandal.
You're sacrificing speed with Grandal.
And Posada, even.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Yogi would be, he would be such a fun card. He'd have secondaries in the outfield. He'd bat left-handed. I think like 120 vision. He had crazy vision when he was in the game back then. Decent speed. He would be fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that we've been asking for Randy Johnson and Pedro Martinez in the game for like 3 years. I feel like every year they top the list. And I understand that there are financial drawbacks to that. But if we do go cross-platform next year, we need Randy Johnson and Pedro in the game. If Pedro's in the game, I'm going to nut instantly. As soon as the trailer starts and they put Pedro Martinez on that fucking screen, I'm just going to start screaming, because that would be so awesome. I mean, his card would be great, especially if you fix the off speeds, because he's going to have a nasty circle change. He's going to have like a sweeping curve, because his curve was it was a little bit slurvy. And he's going to throw high 90s. Like, that card will be magnificent. And Randy Johnson will be even fucking better. He's going to be awesome. Like, from that arm angle, throwing 100 with a nasty breaking ball, like, no shot. I might not ever hit him, but I'd love to have him.
And I would love if the trailer announcement for Pedro was just him throwing down a digital Don Zimmer, just Emperor Palpatine falling down the stairwell,
just grabs him and suplexes him, smashes him over his knee like Bane did to Batman, something like that. That would be awesome.
They would have to do a sponsorship with Disney though to get the rights to Emperor Palpatine for that.
And
yeah, definitely.
If you there should be an Easter egg where if you look at Fenway Park and you zoom in, there's like a patch of grass that has Don Zimmer's face imprinted into it, shoved down.
You're just walking out from the dugout and you see Don Zimmer's face.
And if you hit a batter with Pedro, he comes rushing out.
That'd be awesome, dude. There's so many, real talk though, they should add Easter eggs like that. Like, they need to do more of that. Like Juan Soto's shuffle when he takes a pitch is awesome. That's such a unique feature to the game. And they need to do that for more cards. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just a cool way of showing, having a more personal experience with the game, knowing Juan Soto does that shuffle when he gets balls thrown in the account, and it does in the game. I just think it's a cool thing that they added in.
Yeah, and that would be cool for a lot of different players. Like, it would add personality to every card that you have,
Exactly. Like, Ichiro, he would have that pre-plate routine, like every once in a while. Like his first at-bat of a game or something, he could do that thing with the bat where he points it at the pitcher. If Ichiro was back in the game, of course.
I think that's one thing that, as far as wish list cards we want, I think just keeping cards in the game for people after they retire would be a huge plus for this game, because it sucks knowing that, Ichiro's retiring? Damn, see ya, buddy. Not going to be in the game anymore. That's a shame. And I know that, again, it costs money. I know that they have to get the rights, but it would completely change the game. It's a worthwhile investment, and I know they know that. So hopefully hopefully going cross-platform gives them the budget to get guys like Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, and to get guys like Jeter and Ichiro and A-Rod who retired out of the game,
Exactly.
That would be awesome. I mean, my custom player from, I think 17. No, not 17. My custom player from either 16 or 18 was Randy Johnson. I chose a lefty, like 3/4 sidearm guy that was 6'11" and really skinny, and he threw 100 with a nasty breaking ball. It was awesome.
Yeah, going off that, my Diamond Dynasty player for most of this season was Eric Chavez. Lefty, just made a lefty third baseman.
Unrelated, right. But mine was Matt Vasgersian for a lot of the time, just because.
That's hilarious. Sorry, have you noticed that? I don't know if this is me being nitpicky, but I have the audio for the announcers turned on. In part of it, Matt Vasgersian sounds like he had a cold. Like, it sounds like he had a cold a couple days before. And again, I'm not being nitpicky because I understand scheduling is hard. But if you're doing voice work, you cannot be sick. You can't. That just can't happen. And maybe he wasn't sick. Maybe I'm just hearing things. Maybe I'm going insane. But you cannot be sick while you do voice work. That is like rule number one, you know? I get it. You're grinding MLB at like 3 a.m. You just start to hear things because the stadium sounds, it kind of sounds like ghosts are talking to you. Like I have Astro headphones. And so you pick up those little sounds that you normally wouldn't hear coming out of your TV or monitor speakers. And I thought I thought I was hearing voices. Like I got genuinely scared because it was late at night. And I hear like one of the crowd noises made me jump. I was like, Jesus Christ, like what? Who is talking to me? Because I'm just not used to it. And I'm like, I need to turn that shit down. But anyways, let's make sure that for this year, hopefully Matt Vasgersian is not sick. It sounded like he had a cold or something, and that completely ruins the immersion for me because I'm like, it makes me start to think what he was doing in the booth, you know? That's a minor gripe. I think that one thing that we haven't talked about yet, that this would be a hard one. I think this would be incredibly hard to implement, but it would be really fun, is if they did co-op play. So like in Madden, you can have 3 players playing at the same time on each team. I think that there is a way to do that in baseball. And I don't think that it means making 9 people play on the same game for 3 hours. That would not be fun. That's not what I'm suggesting. All I'm saying is that if you had, let's say, one person pitches, one person pitches, one person plays defense or something, and then you control half the lineup, or you have 3 people playing. One person pitches, one hits, one does defense. There's a bunch of different ways you could do this, but how fun would it be for the 3 of us to team up and take on another 3 players? That would be so much fun, and I think it would make it I think you could relax a little bit more. Like, you don't have to sweat during the game, like in a ranked game. You can just hang out and talk. Like, that would be fun for us to just chill while somebody's playing. You can talk shit to each other about how you're doing. I think that'd be awesome, especially if maybe they change fielding to be a little bit more intuitive. I don't know if I want them to do that, but, you know, fielding's pretty basic at this point. And so maybe if they change fielding or base running or something, that option becomes more enticing to a lot of people. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Another thing I think they should add is new stadiums. I get sick of playing at Ship It all the time, and there's lag in MLB stadiums. I heard they're fixing that on the PS5, but hopefully that works out. But they haven't added a retro stadium in the entirety of Diamond Dynasty since the very beginning. All those retro stadiums were in there besides Atlanta and Texas, I think, are the only 2, just because they got replaced in real life. So they replaced them in the game and moved the old ones back. I know it's a lot of generating the stadiums and all of that. It's a lot of work, but it would just be cool to get a new feel, a new look. I mean, like real minor league stadiums, something more unique, because a lot of them are getting stale.
I actually had a wish list idea that I didn't write down about that. Being able to like create your own kind of field would be really sick, I think. Like have like a base for like, so it wouldn't take too much, like it wouldn't have too much lag and it wouldn't take too much like have to generate or anything. Just have a base for certain parts and people would be able to like create their own field. You know what I mean? I think that'd be really cool way to personalize your Diamond Dynasty experience for next year.
Also, going off that, uploading logos would be fun. They'd have to get checked and everything before they went through. Especially, like, I feel like some of my logos would get declined. Not going to get into that, but yeah, I feel like that would be a lot of fun to have personalized logos, because there's a lot that you can't do on MLB. Like, I've seen some amazing logos and I have no idea how they do it. But if you don't limit it just to MLB in the show, their building process, then I feel like you could make some really cool things.
What if like you make your logo and it would have to get approved and all that, but you could like buy merch with your own logo on it. Like you could buy like a team hat with your own logo that you made
That'd
yourself with it. You know what I mean? I think that'd be super sick. I think that'd be especially cool for content creators and streamers to like rep their own team stuff. You know what I mean?
I think buying your own merch would be awesome. That would be so cool. I would love to rep my MLB team. Honestly, I don't know how you would do that business-wise, but that is a really good idea. It's interesting that you brought up create a stadium because I had that on my list of probably not going to be in the game, or I don't know if I would want it in the game, just because I think that looking at how stadiums are in the game right now, like Ryan brought up, there's lag in MLB stadiums, and the minor league stadiums are getting kind of stale. So as cool as Create a Stadium would be, I think that you really would have to have like a very limited. I think that it would be really hard to make a Create a Stadium system where there was enough changes to be worth it and not to break the game. That's why I kind of was hesitant to suggest it, but I do think it's a really cool idea. I think that would definitely refresh the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally agree with the logo idea about buying merch and revamping that system for sure. My next thing that I think that they should change is adjusting the market caps. This is kind of a small one, but let's not have 1 million buy orders for 1 million stubs, right? Because nobody's getting Billy Wagner, nobody's getting Chipper Jones in the market right now. And I get it, it's hard to go 12-0. It's hard to make World Series, but let's make it so they can readjust the balance of the market, because at this point nobody's buying those cards, you know. And I don't really know the solution, but I do think that needs to be played with a little bit, because it is really hard for people to get those cards. And what's the point of having a card if you can't get it? I mean, rare cards are cool. You know, I have Ted Williams right now and I could sell him for 1 million stubs, but I don't, because he's a personal favorite. And it's cool to say I have a card worth 1 million stubs sell now on my fucking bench. That's cool. You know, I'm balling. But at the same time, you know, if I wasn't in this situation and I didn't make World Series, I didn't get Ted Williams, I would love to have him on my all-time Red Sox team. And I don't want to fork up 1 million stubs. And even if I had 1 million stubs, I couldn't get him even if I had it. You know, that's a problem, in my opinion. Oh, the other thing that I said that people always suggest that I don't know what they mean by it is weekend league. Because that's a Madden feature, right? And isn't it basically events? Like, why not just redo events? Why not improve events rather than, and you can make it for the weekend, make an event go for a weekend and make it a separate event, have multiple events going on at the same time. Do something like that. I don't know why people suggest weekend league as if it's this new thing. Like the way I imagine this conversation going with a dev is like, oh, add weekend league. And then the person's like, well, you can just play events. And then the person would be like, well, there's not a lot of events and a lot of them aren't worth playing for the entire weekend. So the solution is to just revamp events, right? I mean, what do you guys think?
I think to fix events, well, I agree that Weekend League is just events. I think to fix events, they should have year-long rewards where you can build up and get all these packs and stuff from everything you do in events counts towards that. There can be like individual event rewards, but everything counts towards the year-long ones. In between events, they should just have an ongoing one where it's, I don't know, 3 innings on All-Star, no team cap, no nothing, and you can just play in. Because if you want to play, but you don't want to play ranked and risk your record and play an hour-long game, and you don't want to fork up the 1,500 stubs for BR, you just want to play with your team, then why not just hop into a 3-inning game against somebody? Nobody's playing unranked play 9-inning games. No one does that.
Exactly.
I think that's
I
just
completely
an easy
agree.
solution.
I think events needs to be revamped for sure. And so maybe for our last wish list item, who do you guys want on the cover?
I think it's going to be Tatis. Personally, I would love seeing Juan Soto or Ronald
Absolutely.
Acuna.
Has to be one of the young guys. I feel like they could really play into that big marketing.
Absolutely. I think Tatis is really gonna. I think those three are really gonna take
I
over
completely
as the
agree
face
with
of
those
baseball
three.
in the next few years.
I wouldn't be opposed, though, to another legend cover. I think that 17 with Griffey was done really well, and it brought a lot of it put eyes on a different generation of baseball. And I think you could do that with 21's cover. I think if you added Pedro or Randy or something, and you had like a trio of pitchers or something, that would be cool, and it would make up for them not having a pitcher on their cover ever. Even with the three guys from the Braves, Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz, that would have been a cool cover for a lot of people.
Actually, you know what I just thought of with you saying that, Blake? What I think would be cool is what they do with like kind of like 2K, like have like the base version of the game be like a Tatis, a Soto, or an Acuna. You can get any of those three, or have like the what's the most expensive version
MVP.
of the game? The MVP edition could be like them introducing a new legend. Like I think I heard Roberto Clemente was rumored. Like have a Roberto Clemente version. That would be the MVP edition. Or you can get the standard ones, which are like I said, Tatis, Soto, or Acuna.
Improving upon your idea of the Braves' big three pitchers, I feel like it would have been better if it was just all three of them were Smoltz at different points in his career. That would be
awesome, dude. You could have starter Smoltz, closer Smoltz, long reliever Smoltz, and just different points in his windup.
We could call it like MLB The Show 20 Smoltz edition, and they're all Smoltz edition. And so you go in and order the Smoltz edition, and they have no idea what you're talking about. MLB The Smoltz.
That dude really did have like 20 cards this year, and that's fine. But he was the only one they did that for. Nobody else had that many cards.
Yeah,
and he's not even an announcer in the game, like.
And yet Glavine tops out at 95, right? 95 signature. Smoltz has 2 cards better than him, I think.
And honestly, that brings up a good point. I think this has been on a lot of people's wish lists, but making slow throwing pitchers a little bit better. You know, guys who are elite control pitchers and guys who have a lot of movement and rely on it to get outs should be usable in MLB The Show. If you make guys like that usable, it's much easier for a lot of people to play the game, and it's it adds a lot of diversity. You know, I would love to throw a Maddox with Maddox, but it's impossible because his sinker is batting practice. Like,
yes,
I would love a 99 RA.
Throw up thinking about that. Oh my god, I don't need another knuckleballer. Okay, no.
How about a 99 Steve Wright?
Do you remember who was the guy that threw like 95 and had like a 75?
No, never mind.
Yeah, there was the guy who had a 75-mile-an-hour knuckleball and a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and he was the best pitcher in the game, and he was a fucking common.
He didn't throw 95.
He threw hard, dude.
No, he didn't. What?
They lowered his velocity after they called him out for it.
No, because they lowered his knuckleball velocity. It was like 80.
I don't think it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
He threw. I remember him throwing 90. Hard.
Yeah.
But his knuckleball was 80. And it was crazy.
Yeah, he was.
Or no, it was really slow. It was the other way around.
Yeah, it was the opposite.
He threw 80 in real life, but it was like 60 in the game.
Yeah, the speed was too far apart. Yeah. The speed differential was too far apart, is what I meant. Because you couldn't hit both. Like, and I think he threw like 2 other pitches too, and it was like in real life, 1, his knuckleball wasn't even that good, and 2, it was not that big of a speed differential. Right. Man, that was an awful time. And then they had Necro was like a 95, and like he wasn't even that bad. I wouldn't mind facing him, but oh my god, that fucking common was the death of me. But all right, why don't we move into some MLB baseball news? Do you guys want to start with Lynn to the White Sox?
Yeah. 2 things about that. Pretty interesting. Lynn was traded for Dane Dunning and another prospect. Dane Dunning was actually traded as part of the Giolito package for Adam Eaton, who signed on the same day with the White Sox. So they weren't teammates. Dane Dunning and Adam Eaton haven't been teammates, but they're really tangled up. I'd like to see them face each other. Also, Lance Lynn was traded back to the White Sox, where Tony La Russa is the manager, and Tony La Russa, 2 DUIs, and he brought Lance Lynn in the World Series.
You can't bring up LaRusso without saying that,
Exactly.
for the record.
I mean, he's a Hall of Fame guy.
Do you know who he is, though?
He brought
know
Lance
who he
Lynn in the World Series accidentally, had him intentionally walk a batter, and then took him out.
Okay, wait. I didn't know that was accidental.
Yeah.
I've heard the story. I haven't seen it. But I can't believe that was accidental. And he just didn't let him pitch.
I believe what happened was he phoned the bullpen, and the bullpen coach couldn't hear him say who he wanted. I think he wanted Waka to come in, but the guy somehow heard Lance Lynn. And so they brought Lance Lynn, and he started warming up, and La Russa didn't check, and he went out there to take him out. Lynn comes running in, and La Russa looks shocked. So he tells him to intentionally walk a batter because of the 1 batter minimum, and then he immediately takes him out. It might have been.
He's like, I don't know. I didn't call for this fucking bum. Like, can we talk about how? Phillies just hired Dave Dombrowski.
Wow.
I was going to bring that up as a rumor, but it just happened.
Oh, wow.
Breaking news, everybody.
Rest in peace.
The Phillies just traded away their entire farm system. Yep.
They'll get that ring.
Yeah, they'll get a ring. They'll
Tigers.
Get one. That's fair. Yeah, Tigers, that system did not work out for them.
Yeah.
For the record, I love Dave Dombrowski. I think that I love he's going to spend money. It's the one thing that people complain about owners and GMs all the time is that they don't spend enough money. He's going to spend money. He's going to get you free agents. You're going to be involved in literally every free agent that exists at that point. And he's going to trade away prospects that probably aren't going to work out anyways. So Dombrowski, I love him. I love his strategy as a GM. And honestly, I don't care that he traded away our entire farm system. I would trade Chris Sale. I would make that Chris Sale trade 9 times out of 10. I would, even with like Hanley and Panda, like those guys didn't really pan out that well, but I just like that he was spending money. He was taking shots with guys. It's frustrating for guys who are fans of small market teams who can't spend money or choose not to, even though their owners are billionaires. And I don't want to watch baseball like that. I want to be involved. I want to be spending money. I want to be making trades, and I want to be competing. And that's something not a lot of teams do. So Phillies, I think you got a good one, but they're also just crying now about how poor they are. So I don't know if it's going to be a great fit, but I love Dombrowski. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you, Blake. I don't know how well it's going to work out, but I think
it's a decent
fit for the Phillies.
And then they came out and they're like, no, we're not trading him. It's a joke.
Yeah, he said, the owner said he wouldn't trade Zach Wheeler for Babe Ruth. That is his quote.
That's fair, though, because Babe Ruth's dead. So.
Right. And you know what? I'll at least take a living player over somebody who's dead. But if you think about it in a way that he probably wasn't thinking about it when he said it, I think if you think about Babe Ruth when he was playing, would you trade Zach Wheeler for him? And the answer is undoubtedly yes. Because I mean, could you imagine Babe Ruth on the Red Sox? I can't.
I don't know. Like if I had Babe Ruth and they traded me Zach Wheeler and then they paid for this play I was putting on, then I would make that deal. But I don't know straight up.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I would have never thought about that. Also, what if they traded what if Zach Wheeler was playing at the time Babe Ruth was playing? Because then Zach Wheeler would be the GOAT. There would be no shot. Like his ERA would be 0.
Well, he would be way overpaid for back then. I think he's getting paid 9 figures.
Yeah, that's true. He would ruin the economy. Yeah.
Moving on to some minor news, starting with Mike Minor.
Boo.
Signed with the Royals. Also signing Carlos Santana, Michael Taylor, MLB Twitch streamer Trevor May signed with the Mets. Corey Knebel was traded to the Dodgers. A bit of a minor move. Maybe not totally sure about Jansen. Maybe they're just replacing Trinan. Raisel Iglesias and Jose Iglesias both got traded to the Angels. and they're in talks actually with Gabriel Iglesias to sign them to be their ace. Anything jump out at you guys?
I was just gonna say the Angels getting Jose Iglesias.
Yeah, he's a free agent.
Means what? They're done with Andrelton, you think, maybe? True, that, and the biggest rumor for what I heard about Marcus Semien going to a team was the Angels. So that's kind of a
I've
sigh
also
of relief
heard
for me
about
being an Ace
him
fan.
being reached out
So,
from teams
I don't
to see
mind
if he
seeing
would be
that.
willing to play second or third. And I think he's definitely willing to. So I'm not optimistic about him coming back.
I'm still holding on to the little bit of hope I have to keep him.
I really like the Raciel Iglesias because I just think he's a cool pitcher to watch, and he's usually been pretty solid. I honestly haven't paid attention to him too much this year or last year, but watching him on the Reds was cool. I love using him in MLB The Show, so hopefully he pans out for the Angels and he can pitch to his peak.
Rest in peace, Dick Allen. He passed away recently. Should be a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to. Great reporting by Bob Nightingale calling him Richie Allen, even though he's quoted as saying that he hates being called Richie Allen in the past. Makes him sound like he's a 20-year-old kid. So Bob Nightingale, hats off to you.
Well, he is the GOAT of baseball journalism. Yeah. I mean, Ken Rosenthal and Jeff Passan are like B tier.
He's the Rob Manfred of
Nightingale.
We'll just say that.
Just best that's ever done it. Best to put on the cleats. Best to do anything.
I want to see if you guys have any interest in these non-tenders that happen.
Oh, dude, I love non-tenders, man. That is like peak baseball off-season journalism. Right. Go ahead. Hit me
Kyle Schwarber, Eddie Rosario, Hansel Robles, Hanser Alberto, Adam Duvall, Danny Santana, David Dahl, Jose Martinez, and Kevin G.O.D. himself, John Brebbia, got non-tendered.
Hashtag Dahl to Detroit, am I right?
I would love Schwarber. I feel like Schwarber's going to be on the team, right? Because, like, he's just traditional lefty power. Like, it would be awesome to see him try and find a fit with somebody. Maybe if they added the DH in the NL, like, anybody with half a brain can tell you. Maybe Schwarber's on an NL team again, you know? And I think that'd be a really cool fit. Rosario was linked to the Red Sox because of his relationship with Alex Cora is really good. Honestly, Rosario, I would like him on the Red Sox. I think he'd be a cool, like, you know, fourth outfielder maybe even a guy who can start for part of the season depending on how well he hits. I know his defense has been sketchy, but I did see one video on Twitter of him correctly fielding a ball off the monster, and I was sold. Put him in left. He can figure it out. If Manny can figure it out, Eddie Rosario can figure it out. All right.
I think Duvall.
Yeah, and Hanley. Hanley played left for a little bit.
I think Duvall is super underrated here. I think the Braves should have held on to him because they're already losing Ozuna. I think he's definitely a really good power bat, and he's going to find a home, and he's going to excel.
I have one last bit of baseball news. It's more of an opinion than news, but did you guys see the tweet from – it was a clip from a podcast or show, and it was Andy Martino, who covers the Yankees and Mets for SNY Network. He said something to the tune of winning a World Series like isn't the main goal, you know, for a team, right? And before you start crucifying him like the rest of Twitter, I think his quote was a little bit out of context. I feel like you can go look at the tweet. Carabas tweeted about it. The original poster was at Ben_Yoel, Yoel. And he said, "How does this clown still have a job?" Now, Martino replied to Carabas and basically explained that I think what he was trying to say was the goal of a team is to be competitive year in and year out and build a team via draft, free agency, and trade and that's well-balanced and that will compete for years to come. Sort of the opposite approach of Dombrowski. Now, you know, that's great. That makes sense. But I think the goal is still to win a championship. He kind of compared it to being luck. Like, whoever wins the championship is kind of lucky, right? And I get his point. I think he's saying that it's not always the best team who wins the championship. But for 10 years, if you put yourself in the playoffs for 10 years, you have a much higher chance of winning the World Series than a team that's only in the playoffs for 3 out of those 10 years. So I get the point, but at the end of the day, the goal is still to win a World Series. And it's also not luck. You have to build a team. You have to play well. Like, those guys work their asses off. I don't really calling something like that luck is dangerous. I don't know. What do you guys
see what he's saying, but if you look at the Dodgers, the past 3 years, they don't care about winning. They just want the championship. They've been here for a while. They are what he says the goal of it is, and you can just tell that they didn't care about anything but the ring. They didn't care about all the celebrations before. They were there to get their ring, and they did it. So he's partially right, but at the same time,
a great example.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a great example of that is the Detroit Tigers. They had a really big competitive window. They had a stacked team and nothing to show about it. And guess who doesn't talk about the Detroit Tigers? Everybody. Nobody talks about the Tigers. But now that the Dodgers got that ring, people are going to talk about them. They would have ended up just like the Tigers, where it's kind of like they were a really good team. They're an afterthought if you don't win a championship. And that's why I've been lucky to experience 4 in my lifetime, But hey, I'm lucky.
Jackass.
But that's kind of all I have. Do you guys have any other MLB news?
Did you guys happen to see? I thought this was a pretty funny thing on Twitter. It was a video of Manny Ramirez going up to a couple. I think they're at like some restaurant or fast food place. And Manny says, "I like your hat," to the guy wearing a Red Sox hat. And he's like, "Who's your favorite player?" And the guy totally is like, "Oh, it's my girlfriend's hat." Okay, and the couple just gave him a weird look as if they had no idea who he was. I don't think they
that was so cringeworthy.
I just thought that was a hilarious clip.
Was it in Australia? Okay, if it was in Australia, it makes a little bit more sense because they're probably just wearing it as like it looks cool. But honestly, that was so cringeworthy. Yeah. Like I just threw up. I watched it and I threw up, and I was like, I was embarrassed to be a Red Sox fan. But with any good team, you're going to get people who just hop on the bandwagon and don't know what they're talking about. So it's understandable. Also, it is kind of hard, to be fair, it is kind of hard to recognize athletes when they're not in uniform. And Manny has not played even in the big leagues for a long time. So I get it a little bit, but from a diehard Red Sox fan, it's like, that's Manny fucking Ramirez. Like, what are you talking about?
To be fair, if I saw David Fletcher walking the streets in regular street clothes, I'm not 100% sure I'd recognize the man.
Just random thing. I've seen 2 baseball players in street clothes that I know of. One time I was in Cleveland. I was going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the A's were in town, and I had seen a game the day before, and there's this jacked guy wheeling a baby carrier away from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when I was walking up. And my dad told me later, he's like, "You know who that was?" He had an A's hat on and everything. That was Josh Fegley. It's just random. Another time I was at a Tigers game, I think, and the White Sox were playing the Tigers. It was like 2010, 2011. And Omar Vizquel was outside waiting for a cab. He was in like a suit. He was on the phone, so I didn't bother him. But it was just cool to see. I recognized him that time because it's Omar.
Yeah, those are cool stories. I have a couple of those myself. One time, me and my dad, for my senior, for graduating high school, my dad took me to Boston. We got to go to Fenway and see a Red Sox game. We took the tour of Fenway. And before we took the tour, we were eating at the Cask and Flagon, like the restaurant right outside of Fenway. It was really not crowded at all. We were like one of the only people in there. And we're just chilling, and outside, some dude in a suit is like walking by. We're like kind of looking. I was like, what? We both like realized, we were like, why does that guy look familiar? I think we were leaving and we walk outside, and it's Dave Dombrowski walking to work. He was walking right down the street, and we both looked at each other and we were like, that's fucking Dave Dombrowski. Like, it was nuts. And like, it's so weird to recognize a GM. I think that was weird, but we had seen his face a lot, so we were like, that's Dave fucking Dombrowski just walking to the office that is Fenway Park. That was awesome. I've also met Joe Montana at an airport when I was like 9. That was pretty cool. Got to shake his hand. He was playing games on his phone. He was really nice, like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And he was just sitting right next to us.
I actually have a fun story of like that too, meeting a MLB player actually. I was going to get a Halloween costume. So I was going to Party City and I was going back to my car. And in their own car, I actually saw a Blue Jays catcher, Reese McGuire.
Yeah, and what was he doing in his car?
I don't know, but he was arrested for
were the windows tinted or something?
Masturbating, apparently. I had no idea, but cool. Yeah, they're actually really fogged up. I could barely see him through the windshield.
That is awful. You know, there's like
cool
I read this on Reddit. It's kind of a conspiracy theory. The best way to find MLB players and to like see them is if you go online, you can buy tickets to go to Major League Baseball games, and the stadium's filled with Major League Baseball players. It's crazy. Yeah, nobody does it for some reason, but like I had to go to the dark web to figure it out. Yeah, nobody.
No one in Tampa.
I don't know
does
if Tampa has internet, so yeah, exactly. Like I saw a couple fans in the playoffs, and I was like, "What are they doing? How is that possible?" And it turns out there's like, people are figuring it out, and apparently there's like these things called tickets and StubHub and Ticketmaster where you can illegally buy tickets to get into these areas. And I was blown away. That blew my mind.
2 quick notes to finish on for me. Blake, I have a trivia question for you. There's 2 correct answers, okay? The first, what teams played the first game at Fenway Park? There was an exhibition game, and then later on the first major league game. So, take it away.
You said what are the first 2 teams? Like, so are there 4 teams that are correct?
3 teams, technically, because one team was the home team in both of them.
Was it the Boston Braves? No. Okay, Red Sox.
The Red Sox were the home teams in both of them.
All right. Okay, that's fair. I thought that was a trick question. I thought that's where you're trying to trick me. It's not the Yankees, is it? They didn't play the Yankees
for the official game was technically against the New York Highlanders, who later became the Yankees. So that's right. So first
all right.
unofficial
so Highlanders Red Sox
was the Red Sox against.
Okay. And then for the exhibition game, can I get a hint? Is it an MLB team? Is it a college team?
I'm not going to rule that out.
Like, because they play Boston College, I think, and they play Northeastern or something every year. So, oh man, Harvard's
is
been around
the
for
right answer. The first game ever played at Fenway
Park
was between the Red Sox and Harvard's collegiate team.
Wow, I can't believe I got that. That's awesome. That Red Sox one really stumped me. I wasn't expecting it to be the Red Sox.
Second of all, I want to say that David Fletcher had the lowest first pitch swing rate in all of baseball. It was 8.7%. The second lowest was 13.4, almost double that. So David Fletcher didn't swing at 91.3% of the first pitches that he saw. Keep that in mind, pitchers.
Wow.
He's not unleashing his full power.
In MLB The Show,
Watch out.
He's giving you a free pitch. He's like, I'm too good for this league, so I'm giving you a free strike. I'm starting every at bat a 1. In MLB The Show, they turn off your hitting buttons when it's the first pitch. They don't let you swing. It's his new quirk.
Actually, it's weird. When I'm up with him, the only button that works is square to power swing, because that's all he does. He hits bombs. That's all he does. David Fletcher, everyone.
Well, he should have a quirk next year called Perfect, where if you make contact, it leaves the yard. I think that would be the most realistic addition to MLB 21 they can make. All right, that's going to do it for us here at Show and Go Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thanks for making it to the end. Anybody listening, if you hear this right now and you DM me the word mail, M-A-I-L, if you DM me the word mail, I will Venmo you $20. The first person to do that, the first person to listen to this all the way through, DM me the word mail, M-A-I-L. I will Venmo you $20.
Members of the podcast qualify for this?
No, they do not. Now, after that, that's going to be our first giveaway.
Fair question.
My Twitter is at Balake34, B-A-L-A-K-E. You can also DM the Show and Go Podcast on Twitter. Again, SHOWNGOPOD, Show and Go Pod. Make sure to leave ratings. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. And have a great day. Stay safe. Anthony's got something.
And DM us
That's
for any questions or
all
anything.
Medias, including,
reach out to
Instagram
us if
and
you
TikTok as well.
feel like you want to be on the show. We might be able to work something out.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking into interviewing content creators and coming up with a lot of different episode styles for you guys. So thank you for listening. Remember the giveaway. Remember to stay safe in these crazy times. And thank you guys.